Meanwhile, a shocking indictment about how President Obama views the American military.
It was this absence of passion, this absence of a conviction of the importance of success that disturbed me.
And that's one of the reasons why he wrote the book. More from the former Secretary of Defense, that guy right there, Robert Gates.
Yeah, he was defending his book, which we're going to be getting soon. And Lone Survivor, #1 at the box office by a long shot. But it appears CNN's Jake Tapper didn't see or get the movie.
Well, I don't know what part of the film you were watching, but hopelessness never really came into it. I mean, where did you see that?
What Tapper said that got the Lone Survivor fired up. Fox and Friends is fired up because it's Monday and we just showered.
This is United States Marine Corps, 6th Combat Battalion. You're watching Fox and Friends.
I hate to be critical, but you got to reveal everything. We just showered?
Is it true or false?
Speak for yourself,
True.
buddy.
We got up at 3 o'clock in the morning.
You
That's Monday.
showered?
No, I did.
I've never seen you look so clean.
At home. Thanks.
Squeaky clean.
Squeaky clean on a Monday morning.
I tell you, just a stunning day. I mean, we had like 4 major stories to really cover over the weekend. I mean, you had to figure out, no one's talking about Obamacare, although that's an unfolding story. You have the situation with the Gates book, the Christie Bridge, and so much more.
And let's start with the Gates book. It's interesting. Yesterday, Rita Braver of CBS News sat down with Bob Gates, who had run the CIA and, of course, famously ran the Department of Defense. It's interesting. He revealed that President Obama's national security staff, he says, was so controlling and such a micromanager. He hadn't seen anything like that since the days of Nixon. And when Rita Braver said, well, did you tell the president about that? He said, you know, things wouldn't happen that way unless the president wanted them to happen that way.
Right, and, you know, just at the point where we thought, gosh, I don't know if he could say any more. You know, this book is packed with information and quotes from former Secretary of Defense Gates. But he had a lot more to say, and he certainly asserted that the president has an absence of an important ingredient when dealing with sending our troops into battle. Take a listen.
It's one thing to tell the troops that you support them. It's another to work at making them believe that you believe, as president, that their sacrifice is worth it, that the cause is just, that what they are doing is important for the country, and that they must succeed. President Bush did that with the troops when I was secretary. I did not see President Obama do that. And I said, and as I write in the book, it was this absence of passion, this absence of a conviction of the importance of success that disturbed me.
Well, listen, a lot of the pushback came back this weekend because excerpts from the book were out on Tuesday of last week. It's 600 pages, so we're going to get a lot more. And there's much more on Hillary that I found fascinating as well. But on this in particular, to see him say it and then respond to it with his neck brace because he had a serious accident in between that interview and the follow-up interview is this. It's very easy to say, okay, to say I'm questionable on a military man's strategy. Whether I don't like my general, I do like my general. Bottom line is, it's the best military in the world, and these men and women have been fighting for 8 years prior to you, or 5 years prior to you getting the job. So they're seasoned. These guys went to war college. They present their plans, and after the president signs off on the plan, which he campaigned on, it means a lot to stand up there and say, I believe it. It means a lot to every 10 days or so explaining to the American people why this surge of 40,000 troops to join 80,000 troops that had to come out in 9 months or 12 months had to happen the way it happened. And that encourages people on the battlefield. It also dispirits our enemy who says, wow, this guy is really determined. What are we going to do? How are we going to wait them out? Instead, you get a president who makes one speech in front of at West Point, never interacts with the military when he was there, and then he leaves, gets out, and never talks about it again. But make sure everybody knows we're pulling out in less than a year. That actually made it harder for our men and women out in the field, and still, with the rules of engagement, makes it harder for them to fight even today.
And according to many, this is not a man nor a president, neither one of those that is absent of passion when it comes to certain things. So to lack passion, of an absence of passion, I think what would be worse in terms of accusation there or assessment? To say that would mean that equals apathy. And apathy, if you look into positive psychology, has a lot of definitions there. One of them actually says it's a condition of feeling as though you don't have what it takes to deal with the situation and conquer the situation in your skill set. So something that possibly many will be looking into.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right, Elizabeth. As commander-in-chief, you know, he was is a guy who wanted to get out as quickly as possible. But Bob Gates did have some glowing things to say about President Obama. However, when it comes to Joe Biden, he pretty much blows up Joe Biden left and right. Says Joe Biden pretty much made every judgment call on Joe Biden's watch was wrong, except famously one where they were in a meeting and he and Mullen are driving back to the Pentagon, and Admiral Mullen says, "You realize you just agreed with Joe Biden?" And he goes, "Yeah, I got to rethink that thing." One of the other things he says is that Joe Biden is very suspicious of the American military, and that's not good.
And he kept in the president's ear, too.
Here's Bob Gates.
You are not very flattering to Vice President Biden in this book.
Actually, I think I am in some areas complimentary of him, but where I had a particular problem with the vice president was in his encouragement of suspicion of the military and the senior military with the president. You can't trust these guys. They're going to try and jam you. They're going to try and box you in, and so on. And that did disturb me a lot.
And that's what the Secretary of Defense was pushing back against. He's trying to push forward and watch his guys back. At the same time, the vice president's saying, "Hey, Mr. brand new president who's only been a U.S. senator for 2 years, I know the ways of the world, and these guys are trying to jam you? Really? That incredible invasion of Iraq, the outstanding way in which we fought in Afghanistan, you know, the way our special forces have acted, and you have a guy in your ear telling you how bad these guys are, and how General Petraeus and General McChrystal are trying to jam you? You could imagine the Secretary of Defense was beside himself. On top of that, I do fault him, and we will get a chance to talk to him, I understand, pretty soon, for not saying it to him. Well, you got to come back and say you got to defend your guys.
Well, like he said regarding some of the items that Rita Braver asked him about, why did you ever tell the president? Well, things don't operate that way in the White House unless the president wants it to operate that way. So the implicit message was this is the way.
But I would love to have seen, I told the president this, and this is what he said back to me.
But he's still his boss.
Yeah, and there is still time.